You ever hear a laugh that makes your skin crawl? Not because it's loud, not because it's ugly, but because you know it's meant for you. That was my sister. I still remember that December evening like it's carved into bone. The phone was warm against my ear. I wasn't supposed to be on the line. She didn't know I was listening on the extension. Her voice came through sugar-sweet, dripping with smug. "Don't forget to act grateful when we surprise her," she said. A little snicker followed, then silence, and then my dad's voice, dry, flat, the kind of tone he always used when he was delivering a rule. "She'll smile," he said, "or she's out. Simple." "My mom?" She chuckled. The kind of chuckle that tells you they've already rehearsed this little scene. Perfect. Everyone will be there to see it, and I swear in that moment, my body froze. A breath caught hard behind my ribs. My palms went cold, like I'd dipped them into December rain. See, this wasn't new. Not for me. I'd been the family errand girl my whole life. The one who washed dishes while they toasted someone else. The one who fetched napkins when the party ran out. My name was never really mine, and it was just a prop for their stories. A punchline, a role. That kind of ache, it doesn't scream, it grinds. Makes your jaw clench until your teeth press too tight. Like bite pressure is the only thing holding you together. My name's Haven Lark, and I don't tell stories to be believed. I tell them to be felt. A week before Christmas, I overheard my own family planning to humiliate me in front of everyone, and then kick me out like yesterday's trash. So I made new plans. I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream into pillows. I moved quiet, careful, like a hand reaching out to flick a lamp off in the dark. Vendors, rerouted, calls, made at midnight so no one would suspect. I had 2 lists, one for what I owed them, and one longer list for what they owed me. On December 24th, my mom called, her voice coated in sugar so thick it nearly cracked her teeth. "Where are you, honey?" I laughed. Not the nervous kind, not the broken kind, flat, soft, like I'd already made peace with the storm. "Don't wait for me," I said. Or the catering. In the kitchen, the clock ticked like little hammers pounding nails into a coffin. Outside, chimney smoke tangled with the smell of tangerine peels. I opened the window and the cold climbed in fast, pressing against my skin. And you know what? It steadied me. Because you can measure a lifetime by what you're willing to swallow. And I was done swallowing. See, they wanted a stage that night. They'd already built it. Strings of warm lights, glossy place cards, a mic that would crackle when their little roast landed. Their plan was simple. Disguise cruelty as comedy, then call it boundaries. But here's what they forgot. The girl who fetches napkins is the same girl who files invoices. The same girl. Hiding, so I set my phone down, pressed 2 fingers against my wrist and counted my pulse. Control is a quiet drum. Another call buzzed in. "Dad this time." I declined. Then a text from my aunt. "Bring the cranberry tart at least." I smirked, because the tart had already been delivered. Not to their house, to the shelter down the street. Same with the trays, the ones labeled with neat little names. Salmon Lee table, roast, head table. Every kindness they thought was for them, redirected. Snow began to fall, a hush of white noise outside. I heard my own voice for the first time in years. Calm, clear. I zipped my coat, picked up an unmarked envelope, and stepped into the night toward the one place in that house they never thought I'd go. Through the frost-tipped trees, I saw their house glowing like a stage set. Cars lined the street, exhaust curling upward, muffling the hum of laughter spilling from open windows. For a moment, I just stood there in the dark, hidden, listening. My sister's voice rang loud, full of false brightness. "She's always late. Wait until you hear what we have planned for her." The room erupted in amusement. I let the sound pace me, then settle into steel. I moved toward the side entrance, the one no guest ever used. The service door where I used to carry trays in and out unseen. My key still worked. Of course it did. No one ever changed locks for the girl they thought would always stay obedient. I slipped inside, swallowed by the hum of warm air and the faint sting of cinnamon candles. My heart thudded in rhythm with the clinking of glasses nearby. The dining room was dressed like a magazine spread. Polished silverware, a mountain of wrapped boxes under the tree. My family gathered there, glittering in red and gold. Mom raised her hand for silence. When she finally shows, we'll toast. Her smile was the same one she used to slice me down when I was 10. I leaned against the doorway, unseen for a moment, just watching them. They rehearsed their cruelty like it was theater. That was when I realized tonight I didn't need to shout louder than them. I only needed to let their stage collapse under its own weight. I gripped the envelope tighter, then stepped forward, the wood creaking under my boot. Dozens of heads turned at once. My sister's smirk froze halfway. The silence was sudden, sharp, like the pause before a chandelier falls. Every pair of eyes latched onto me as if I had broken the spell. I didn't rush. I let the silence grow long enough to make someone shift, uncomfortably in their chair. My sister spoke first, her voice pitched high, dripping with the confidence of someone who thought she'd already won. Well, look who finally decided to show up. Don't worry, everyone. We saved the best joke for last. A few cousins chuckled nervously, waiting for the cue to laugh harder. But something about the way I stood, coat, still on, snow melting at my boots, kept them from going too far. I tilted my head slightly. Funny, I said softly. That's exactly what I came here to say. Dad's brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? His voice carried authority, but I saw the faint twitch in his jaw. I set the envelope on the table nearest to me, sliding it across polished wood until it stopped in front of Mom's champagne flute. Every catering order, every deposit. My money, not yours. I kept the receipts. Tonight's feast? Already served elsewhere. Hope you brought an appetite for leftovers. A murmur rippled through the room. Mom's hand trembled as she pulled the papers halfway out. My aunt leaned over, whispering, then gasping. My sister's laugh cracked. You're bluffing. She's bluffing. But the truth was inked in bold numbers and signatures. The crowd didn't need my words, just their silence. The way it thickened as realization spread like spilled wine. I stepped closer, letting the glow of the tree light one side of my face, the other swallowed by shadow. You wanted a stage. You built it. But the punchline isn't mine. It's yours. My cousin coughed, uncomfortable. Someone else shifted in their chair. The room tilted, the power sliding away from the center of the table where it had always been. Then the doorbell rang, a sharp, echoing chime. Every head snapped toward the sound, relief sparking in their eyes, as if a guest might rescue them from the weight of what I'd laid bare. But I already knew who was waiting outside. The chime echoed again, long and insistent, until my sister finally barked, "Someone get that." A cousin scurried off, his shoes squeaking on polished wood. The door opened and in swept the cold December air along with 3 men in dark coats, their arms loaded with boxes stamped with a logo no one at that table recognized. "Delivery for the Lark family," one of them announced. Their voices steady, practiced. Confusion swept the room. Dad stood, chest puffed, trying to reclaim control. "We didn't order anything." One of the men set a box squarely on the center of the dining table, right on top of Mom's poinsettia centerpiece. "This is prepaid. Signed by Haven Lark." All eyes darted back to me. I didn't flinch. I slipped my gloves off slowly, one finger at a time, letting the silence draw tight. Mom's voice cracked. What is this?" "Your Christmas dinner," I said, "or what's left of it." "Everything you thought was yours?" "Rerouted. These," I tapped the box, "are care packages. Tonight the shelters eat like royalty." Gasps scattered the room. My aunt covered her mouth. My cousin muttered something about the salmon. My sister went pale, then red, then pale again. Dad's fist slammed the table, rattling glasses. "You ungrateful child." "No," my voice cut sharp, colder than his. "Not ungrateful. Unpaid, unnoticed, unwanted, until you needed a servant. You wanted me humiliated in front of everyone." I swept my gaze across the guests, their curiosity curdling into discomfort. "Look closer. The only humiliation here isn't mine. The..." Men in coats tipped their hats and left, snow swirling behind them as the door clicked shut. Silence settled, thick as frost. The smell of extinguished candles stung the air where the boxes had crushed them. My family stared at the unopened package like it was a coffin lid. I let the moment breathe, the weight of truth pressing down. Then, with deliberate calm, I pulled out a single folded card from my pocket. one they hadn't seen yet, and I laid it face down in front of my sister. Her fingers hovered over the card, hesitant for the first time in her life. My sister, who always tore into gifts like a queen impatient for jewels, now looked as if a single touch might scorch her. The guests leaned forward, whispers hissing like restless snakes. She flipped it open. The color drained from her face. The room tilted into silence as my sister's eyes skimmed the card. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She tried to laugh, but the sound caught in her throat like glass. Mom leaned forward. "What is it? Show us." My sister slammed the card shut, pressing it flat against her chest. Too late. I had already stepped closer, my voice smooth, steady, cutting through the room like a blade. "Go on, share with the class. You always loved being the center of attention." She glared at me, trembling. Dad snatched the card from her hand, ignoring her hissed protest. His eyes darted across the page, then widened, pupils shrinking to pinpoints. He looked at her as if he didn't recognize his own child. "Is this true?" His voice cracked. A man's authority dissolving into something small, brittle. My sister's jaw clenched, but she couldn't answer. The guests fidgeted, hungry for details. They didn't have to wait long. I pulled a thin folder from my coat pocket, tossing it onto the table with a slap that made silverware jump. "She used me as her ghost," I said. "Every paper, every transaction. She signed my name on the loans, on the debts, so if things went bad, I'd be the one buried. But bad luck has a way of circling back, doesn't it?" The folder spilled open. Contracts, bank slips, even a forged signature that wasn't quite neat enough to pass under scrutiny. The gasps came in waves. My aunt muttered something about fraud. A cousin whispered, "That's illegal." Mom's face drained of color, her hand shaking as she pressed it to her pearls. Dad's voice erupted, thunder crashing through the room. "You ruined us!" He slammed the papers down, pointing a trembling finger at my sister. She shrank for once the golden child stripped of her crown. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I leaned forward, my voice lowering, pulling the room into my orbit. "What you don't know, what none of you bothered to notice is that while she built her empire on lies, I was working quietly, patiently, every shift. Every paycheck I invested, I bought pieces of what you thought was untouchable. The bakery, the supply company, even the florist you brag about using for every event." I smiled. "Slow and sharp. All mine now. And guess who your precious catering contracts depend on?" The silence was thick enough to choke on. My sister shot to her feet, knocking her chair over. "You're lying!" "You wouldn't know how." "How to what?" I cut in. "To survive without handouts? To fight for scraps while you dined on gold?" "You're right. I shouldn't know, but I learned. And now every luxury you flaunt, it runs through me." Their faces were a gallery of disbelief, some pale with shock, others flushed with secondhand shame. The cousins who once laughed at me couldn't meet my eyes. Even Mom's iron mask cracked, her lips trembling. She whispered almost to herself, "You planned this." "No," I corrected softly, stepping into the light of the chandelier. "You planned this. Every time you pushed me down, you taught me where the floor was. And every floor has a basement. That's where I started. Now I'm the ceiling you'll never reach." My sister lunged, but Dad caught her wrist, his grip harsh. Not to protect me, he never would, but to protect the last shred of their reputation, in front of the guests. She froze, humiliated by the same people she had once used as an audience for my humiliation. The balance of power shifted, and they all felt it. Guests cleared their throats, whispered excuses, glanced toward the door. One by one, they slipped away, unwilling to witness the collapse of the dynasty they once envied. Within minutes, the grand dinner was reduced to a hollow gathering of family, stripped of their audience, stripped of their pride. I adjusted my gloves, calm as the storm they never saw coming. "Enjoy your feast," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. "The one that's left." I turned, heading toward the door. My sister's voice cracked behind me, raw and desperate. "You'll regret this." I paused just long enough to let the words hang in the air. Then I looked back over my shoulder, my eyes locking with hers. I already regretted everything. Until tonight. The door opened, the winter wind rushing in like applause. And as it closed behind me, I knew the stage I'd left behind would never recover. Not because I'd stolen their crown, but because I'd taught them what it felt like to bleed without an audience to cheer. And that wound never heals. Snow crunched under my boots as I stepped outside, but the echo of their voices still clung to me like smoke. I thought leaving would feel final, but the night wasn't finished yet. Not by a long shot, because revenge isn't just about striking back. It's about watching the cracks spread until the whole house caves in. The next morning, the calls began. My sister's number flashed across my screen again and again. First rage, then pleading, then silence. I didn't answer a single one. Let her hear the ringing. Let it gnaw at her the way their laughter once gnawed at me. By noon, the first wave hit. The bank. A foreclosure notice hand-delivered to the house. The same house where they toasted to my failures. Now their glasses sat empty, their plates untouched, while a stranger's envelope stripped the paint off their pride. By evening, the neighbors whispered. Cars slowed as they passed, eyes hungry for spectacle. Mom closed the blinds, but gossip doesn't need windows. It spreads like fire. The perfect Lark family, undone overnight. I heard about it all secondhand, from the bakery owner who now answered to me, from the florist who laughed as she cut ties with my mother, from the supply chain manager who said, "Funny thing, your sister's credit just bounced." Each call wasn't just news. It was music. A symphony of downfall. Each note sweeter because they never imagined I could conduct it. Days blurred, and with each one, their empire shrank smaller. Dad sold his watch, then his car, then his silence. Mom hid in the house, refusing to face the world she once commanded. And my sister, oh, she burned brightest as she fell. Her friends stopped answering. Her debts piled high. The woman who once paraded me as a punchline now crossed the street to avoid whispers. But fate, I've learned, is patient. And patient things circle back. A week later, I found her waiting for me outside the bakery I now owned. The cold had reddened her cheeks. Her coat looked thinner than I remembered. Her voice cracked before she could shape it into venom. Why are you doing this? We're family. I let the word hang there. Heavy, hollow, family. The same excuse they used every time they cut me open and called it love. I stepped closer, my breath fogging between us. Family doesn't use your name as a shield. Family doesn't starve you so they can feast. Family doesn't laugh while you bleed. Her eyes glistened. A flicker of the girl she used to be. The sister I once would have protected. But I buried that memory the night she paraded me for applause. I leaned in, my voice low, steady. You wanted me broken. Instead, I built something stronger. And now you get to live with it. She reached for me. Maybe for forgiveness. Maybe for the sister she once had. I stepped back, letting the distance grow. Forgiveness wasn't part of the plan. Not tonight, not ever. She crumpled, her breath catching in the cold, as if the weight of her own choices had finally pressed her into the ground. I turned and walked away, the bakery lights warm behind me, the snow swallowing her sobs. The world didn't end with fire or thunder. It ended with silence, the silence of a stage with no audience, of a queen with no crown, of a family with no empire. And for the first time in my life, that silence belonged to me.